To 6 months in county jail and 3 years probation for the sexual assault of an unconscious woman outside a frat party on a campus in January of 2015. The judge cited Turner's clean criminal record and the effect the conviction would have on his life for leniency. The local prosecutor disagreed with the sentence, arguing for 6 years for crimes that could have sent Turner to prison for 10 years. Criticism surrounding this case has intensified when Michelle Dauber, a law professor, released a letter that Turner's father wrote to the judge before sentencing, pleading for leniency and telling the court his son has already paid a steep price for 20 minutes of action. According to online inmate records, Turner will likely only serve 3 months behind bars. County jail inmates served 50% of their sentences if they keep a clean disciplinary record. Stephen A., what's your reaction to the story?
There needs to be a national uproar. I would call for the federal government to get involved to see if federal charges can be brought against this kid as this pertains to a violation of Title IX, civil rights violations, whatever you can come up with. I don't give a damn. He just needs to be in jail. As it pertains to his father should be ashamed of himself. You could feel a certain way, but considering what your son was convicted of, it was 3 felony counts, sexual assault, not rape, because I'm not even getting into the legal mumbo jumbo that differentiates between rape and the term sexual assault. Let folks out there look it up. I'm not going to waste my time with that right now. But it clearly violated this woman in a very heinous fashion. There are 3 felony counts. This young boy could have faced 14 years in jail, and he only gets 6 months. And 3 months, it'll likely be with good behavior, with a literal quote from the judge, Aaron Persky, who, by the way, should be removed. Here's the quote from the judge. A prison sentence would have a severe impact on him. I think he will not be a danger to others. Are you kidding me? This is one of the most egregious things that I have seen. This is a swimmer at Stanford University. The judge is an alumnus of Stanford. There's some conflict there as far as I'm concerned, particularly when you consider the ruling by this judge. I'm thinking about the National Organization for Women and others, who obviously have petitions out there calling for the removal of the judge. If I remember correctly, this case needs to be revisited. It needs to be brought back up. And this dude, Brock Turner, needs to be in jail for more than 3 months. Now, why would I say such a thing, Skip Bayless? There's an individual by the name of Brian Banks. I believe he's employed right now by the NFL. I believe this is a guy that had his conviction overturned because it was discovered that he was innocent. But he also had to do hard time because of being wrongly accused of rape. Listen to this quote from this guy right here, Mr. Banks. I would say it's a case of privilege, talking about Brock Turner. It seems like the judge based his decision on lifestyle. He's lived such a good life and has never experienced anything serious in his life that would prepare him for prison. That basically was what the judge was saying, Skip. Mr. Banks goes on to say he was sheltered so much he wouldn't be able to survive prison. That's what the judge was essentially saying. What about the kid who has nothing, who struggles to eat, struggles to get a fair education? What about the kid who has no choice, who is born to and has drug-addicted parents or a non-parent household? Where is the consideration for them when they commit a crime? This is not so much about racism as it is about classism. But this is the United States of America. We've got women all over the place going absolutely crazy because of the lack of attention that has been brought to sexual assault victims, etc. Why is this kid being allowed to get off? 6 months? 3 months with good behavior? You're 20 years old. And keep in mind, there were 2 witnesses that witnessed the attack that literally joined the fray, held him down until the police authorities showed up on the scene. Otherwise, he would have gotten away with it scot-free because the survivor was unconscious. She didn't even know what was being done to her by this kid. This is as egregious as it gets, that this kid from Stanford, a swimmer, a swimming star, it gets away with this, and his father is just talking about 20 minutes of action shouldn't ruin his life. Well, what about her life? Women should be in an absolute uproar, Molly. Skip.
I am. It's
This
a
is
lifetime
insane.
of damage, Stephen
This
A.
is insane that this kid is allowed to get away with it. The federal government should revisit this case. There should be federal charges brought against this kid. I wouldn't be saying this if there wasn't a conviction. But since there is a conviction, just like there was a conviction from Greg Hardy that ultimately was overturned and everybody wants to excoriate him, rightfully so, there should be something that's revisited here with this kid. This is insane. Something needs to be done about this. This Brock Turner case needs to be revisited by the federal authorities because clearly the local authorities are too influenced by Judge Persky, who should immediately be removed from his job.
I could not agree more with everything you just so eloquently and emotionally brought to our attention. And I hope that for the sake of this show, and we pride ourselves dealing with these issues, we're a little late on this one. We wanted to let it unfold a little bit more until we knew exactly where this was heading. But I'm with you, Stephen A. It's mind-blowing to me what just took place. I don't know enough to know about legal recourse here to revisit this trial. I don't know about double jeopardy, how that applies to this. It's over my head. But this judge has to be removed from his post. And by the way, this judge was the captain of the lacrosse team at Stanford University. And it certainly appears from a distance, and I did not closely follow the trial as it was unfolding, it certainly appears that his affiliation with Stanford and his ability to relate to this young white swimmer dramatically affected his sentencing of this case. And remember, Stephen A., he did not send this young man to prison. He sent him to county jail for what effectively could turn out to be, as you point out, 3 months out of the 6-month sentence that he was given with 3 years of quote-unquote probation. So all of this mind-blowing, just on objectivity, Stephen A., that letter that his father wrote, it wasn't written just the other day. It was written, early in the trial to the judge, trying to influence the judge. But what the father clearly losing sight of, as Molly so eloquently pointed out, is that he's trying to turn his son into the victim here when clearly the survivor was the victim of this crime. And to Molly's point, she has written eloquently, the survivor has, about how angry and empty and lost she is left feeling. So I don't know what else to say, except I don't know how the judge can keep his post. There are numerous petitions to remove him. He is pretty quickly here, I think it's next week, he is scheduled to run unopposed to be reelected. That must be stopped. And then, Stephen A., maybe you know more about the legal process here than I do. There has to be some way to revisit the incredibly light sentencing that this young Stanford swimmer was able to get out with.
Well, from my understanding that obviously from a local level, it can't be revisited because double jeopardy may be applicable. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But what I will tell you is this. I have seen instances where double jeopardy appeared to be a concern, and then the federal authorities would get involved and find a way to address this situation, whether it's through Title IX because a woman obviously was violated in a very heinous fashion, or you're talking about civil rights violations as well. Whatever the case, I don't care about the cause you come up with for this kid to do some time. He just needs to do some time, and it doesn't need to be in a local facility or a prison where the parents could come and visit you every day and all of this other stuff. No, you need to do some time. You're 20 years old. You committed a crime. You knew it. And oh, by the way, if I remember correctly, I believe there was a situation involving his mugshot or some picture of him. The media was requesting it, and it took them like almost a year, I think, something along those lines, to actually get a photo of this guy. There was some actions that took place here that appears to have involved some form of favorable treatment towards him. And when you consider the fact that this kid Banks, who was wrongly convicted and sentenced to prison for years and had to do hard time before his conviction got overturned, who, by the way, was advised by his lawyers ultimately to plead, because ultimately you're going to have an all-white jury. That was supposed to be a jury of his peers, by the way, and they were going to sit up there, and they knew that ultimately Mr. Banks could do a really hard time, anywhere from 25 to 18 years or whatever the case may be. You're talking about plea deals. These are the kind of this is the kind of disadvantaged position that he was in. But this kid from Stanford, right here, okay, you assault this woman, sexually assault her, you could give the kid 14 years. Not only do you not send him to a prison, you send him to a local facility, but you only give him 6 months and will have him out in 3 months, and you determine he's not going to be harmful to our society. This judge needs to be removed. I'm watching TV last night looking at pundits talking about it's the discretion of the judge. We don't know the particulars. Damn it, we know there was a conviction. A conviction involving 3 felony charges. What the hell do I need to know other than that? 3 felony charges, conviction. That does not equate to 6 months. Show me one. I challenge any legal person to show me a case where you get convicted on 3 felony accounts and you only get 6 months and you out in 3 months. I want somebody to show me, someone in the legal profession, I challenge them to show me a conviction that involves 3 felonies and you only get 6 months and you out in 3. I want to know, show me, I want the cases. I'll read them over the air. I want to know the cases. This is ridiculous. That boy needs to be in jail. Get him in jail. Get him in jail.
Not in jail, in prison.
I'm sorry,
yes.
Prison.
Not county jail.
I'm sorry,
yes.
Prison.
Yes. And by the way, one last thought for his father, and I know the letter was written during the trial, but that reprehensible phrase that he used, 20 minutes of action, I want to remind the father, as blind as he was in the love of his son, millions of people have gone to prison in this country for quote unquote 20 minutes of action or 5 seconds of action. One big mistake and you can go to prison in this world. And you can't defend him like, oh, he got drunk and made a mistake. And I'm tired of hearing, I blacked out and I didn't know what I was doing. Nope, not an excuse. Sorry,
you're going to prison. Out. He evidently was not. She was the one that was blacked out.
Well, he says his defense was, I can't remember what I was doing.
Oh, listen, plausible deniability. We understand how that works. If you don't remember anything, you can't defend it. It's a beautiful strategy. Evidently, it kind of worked in this particular situation, which is pathetic. But the point is that when you look at it in the end, something has to be done. And by the way, the father's statement, let me say this to the father. You didn't just blurt that out your mouth. You actually sat down thinking about a way to come to the defense of your son, and you wrote this. I'm sorry. That might be part of your son's problem.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you for creating an uproar. When I read that 20 minutes, it made me absolutely sick. This woman will never be the same, and she's going to suffer a lifetime of damage. And also a point of order, Title IX doesn't come into effect here because